All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores. Again, like I said in my previous video, I apologize if I sound a little weird. Throat killing me. Been live streaming for probably like 15 hours over the course of the past 3 days, and I'm coming out with individual videos for each of the draft picks. I know I'm going out of order, but every time, most of these picks happened while I was streaming, and then by the time I was done streaming, we picked Chris Rodriguez. So that was the most recent film that I watched. I sat down after I was done streaming and watched a lot of film on him. I'm gonna go back and watch some more film on the previous picks. So I'm gonna talk about Braden Daniels. I'm gonna talk about the other edge rusher as well, KJ Henry, who I actually really like a lot. I can't wait to talk about him. But now I'm gonna talk about our most recent draft pick, our final draft pick of the draft, edge Andre Jones out of Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, man. We're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about how he fits on the team. Is he going to make the roster? Could he potentially start? Does he have a specific role on this team that nobody else fits? Whose job is he taking? Because that's really important. When you're drafting players, they're taking somebody's job. Whether they're a starter or a depth piece, they're taking somebody's job. We're going to talk about his weaknesses and strengths. Is he more of a pass rusher or an edge setter? We're going to talk about literally every Pro Football Focus grades, advanced statistics, everything. So we're going to talk about all of everything that involves him. But before we dive into all that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you pull up for the live stream that, if my throat is alright enough, I will live stream tomorrow to do like just an overall reaction to the draft. I will eventually take the time to watch enough film to where I'm comfortable of doing an official draft grade and review, where I'm gonna break down every individual player's fits on the team, my individual grades for them and why, their weaknesses and strengths, comps. I'm gonna do player comps for every pick of the draft, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But I also plan on doing a live stream tomorrow if I can do it. If I can, maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday, I'm gonna do a live stream for basically a review for the entire draft class, and I will open up the phone lines for y'all to call in and y'all give y'all opinions and voice your opinions. You'll be a part of the show just as much as I am, so make sure y'all stay tuned for that. But without further ado, let's get it. All right, so the Washington Commanders have drafted edge Andre Jones with the final pick. Is he a Shaka Toney replacement, a high ceiling pass rusher? We're going to get to that. Our final pick of the draft, 233rd overall in the 7th round, Louisiana, technically linebacker Andre Jones. But we're definitely considering him to be a defensive end just based on his traits and everything. He's basically coming in to be a Shaka Toney replacement. Shaka Toney was supposed to be our situational pass rusher. Pretty much everybody else in our defensive end group are guys that can set the edge, and they provide some pass rush upside to an extent, but they're not specialized pass rushers where we bring them in the game and that's what they're literally doing. Currently, with Shaka Toney suspended indefinitely, Andre Jones is the only guy that's like our obvious pass rusher on obvious passing downs, 3rd and long, 4th and long. This is the guy that would come in. We call him. Like how you call certain people, you call Ghostbusters to handle ghosts, you call John Wick to handle problems, you call Andre Jones to come and get the quarterback on 3rd and long. Also, I want to keep pointing out, every time we take an edge rusher, the reason that we're doing this is because we have no edge rushers on this roster past the point of the 2023 regular season. If we're looking at it, you can include everybody. Chase Young, if we don't pick up his 5th-year option by the May 2nd deadline, Montez Sweat, James Smith-Williams, William Bradley King, Casey Toohill, and F.A. Abada. Literally every single one of our edge rushers. And again, Shaka Toney is suspended indefinitely. That's the only reason he technically could be on roster 2024, but he'll probably end up getting released, especially now that we drafted his potential replacement, Andre Jones. But again, all of those names I gave you, even James Smith-Williams, who doubles as a defensive tackle and an edge rusher, none of those guys are on contract for the Commanders beyond this 2023 regular season. After this 2023 season ends, hopefully after the postseason for us, we make the postseason and everything, I'm gonna speak it into existence, none of these edge rushers are currently on our roster. Maybe we extend some before the season starts, maybe mid-season, maybe as soon as the season ends we extend somebody. I hope we find a way to keep Chase Young and Montez Sweat, but it's more than likely going to be to where we end up losing at least one of them at some point, so we'll see how this goes. It's a very interesting situation. We got to monitor it day by day because anything can happen, but again, as of right now, the Commanders don't have a single edge rusher on contract going into the 2024 off season, which is really interesting. I'm not sure if there's any other team in the NFL currently currently constructed like that. We'll see, especially since the defensive line is our calling card. We pride ourselves on that. We say that that's the best position group on this team, but as of right now, we don't have any edge rushers after the 2023 season. We'll see how that goes. But Andre Jones, the linebacker out of Louisiana, was a 4-year starter. He's totaled 6 years in school overall and saw action in a whopping 64 games with 46 starts. And you know the Commanders love themselves some super seniors, some Senior Bowl guys, some super seniors that have been in college for 4 years or more. Boy, they love that. They love guys that can come in and contribute immediately because they're not only mature mentally, mature body-wise as well. They're older. They're ready to go ahead and go against NFL level competition. There's not like this just super, you got to wait for them to develop and grow into their grown man body. These are guys that come in and can contribute immediately. I'm not saying Andre Jones is a certified starter. I'm not saying he's even necessarily a great pick, but he is a situational pass rusher that if we need him week 1, he can probably go after the quarterback. And that's a role that he can fill that nobody else on our team fills right now, especially with Shaka Toney gone. Again, everybody that we currently have as an edge rusher, again, nobody is on contract beyond 2023. But as far as 2023 wise, everybody's pretty much edge setters. Even Chase Young and Montez Sweat, who we see having all of this potential to become pass rusher, they're elite edge setters. We have a certain type of guy, and Andre Jones is the only guy, again, with Shaka Toney suspended, that fills a specific role that nobody else has. We hope Chase Young and Montez Sweat eventually gain some pass rush ability, and FL Bada has flashed some occasionally, but Andre Jones is the only pure pass rusher we have on roster right now. And remember, he's also Percy Butler's teammate, who we drafted last year in the 4th round as one of our high ceiling elite potential safety slot corners or whatever. It's going to be interesting to see where he fits into this situation with us drafting Quan Martin and Emmanuel Forbes, but we'll see, because Derek Ford is our starting free safety, Cameron Crowe is our starting strong safety. I don't know where he fits in. I'm not even sure exactly where Kendall Fuller fits in, but this whole thing is situation. But again, it's really interesting. This is Percy Butler's teammate from Louisiana, Raging Cajuns. He was just there last year. Now we got Andre Jones this year. I'm pretty sure Percy Butler vouched for him. But you know who definitely probably vouched for him? B. Mitch, who's a Louisiana Raging Cajun himself, and we've taken 2 in a row. Now we have taken no Georgia players, but we've taken 2 of those guys. I feel like B. Mitch has more say in what this organization does than we believe. Fred Smoot got his 1st round Mississippi State prospect. So, hey, man, I'm thinking there's some things going on behind the scenes, man. But nah, I'm just joking. Shouts out to B. Mitch for getting what he probably wanted, man. But yeah, man. And also, Andre Jones gave a shout out in his press conference or interview after we drafted him. Shout out to B. Mitch for coming down to Louisiana every year. Shouts out to B. Mitch for that too. Me as a Commanders fan, Rico of Street Scores, I want to shout him out as well too, because going back to your alma mater every year to show them some love and bring them some inspiration, that's really dope. And I'm pretty sure that inspired Andre Jones to keep going, because again, playing in college for like 6 years, you start to probably think maybe I'm not destined to make it, and he found a way to get drafted. Some people thought he would be an undrafted free agent. We took him in the 7th round, and I'm pretty sure B. Mitch was a great inspiration and a reason that he ended up making it. And again, I joke about it, but maybe he wasn't influenced as to why the Commanders took him, but I doubt it. But he's 6'4", 248 pounds. That's a great build. In 2022, he was 2nd team all conference. In 2022, he also had 55 tackles, 7 tackles for losses, and 7.5 sacks. And in his career, he had 216 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, and 17.5 sacks, and 5.5 forced fumbles. He's a playmaker, man. That's the theme of this draft. We're trying to get guys to create turnovers and can change field positioning, and this is the type of guy that can do that, man. And Al Galdi pointed out that to him, this entire draft looks like best player available on their board going the whole way down. I'm not exactly sure if I agree there yet. I'm about to take a look at this draft overall, but that's really interesting. And then, of course, by the time we ended the draft, a lot of people were surprised that we did not take any quarterback. And I mean, the national media is surprised, but us as Commanders fans are not surprised at all. I mean, none of us thought we would take a quarterback. It wasn't very likely. Now, there was a scary moment where we were trying to trade up to that Steelers first pick of the 2nd round, technically the 32nd pick, because remember the Miami Dolphins forfeited their pick, and it was rumored to be Hendon Hooker. The Hendon Hooker was there at 47, so who were we trading up for? Will Levis? So it sounds like we dodged the Will Levis bullet, and then maybe I would have taken Dorian Thompson-Robinson later in the draft, but he ended up getting picked sooner than I was even probably willing to take him. Shouts out to him, though. I hope he does a great job at the NFL level. I do like him as a quarterback, but again, a lot of people are, especially in the media, the national media, are surprised we didn't take quarterback. A lot of them don't believe in Sam Howell like like we do, I'm not the least bit surprised. Sam Howell is that guy. Jacoby Brissett is our backup. The only problem I have is that Jake Fromm is 2 injuries away from being our starting quarterback, and the only reason I even kind of like that is because if he's out there, we're pretty much destined to get Caleb Williams. But I think this team is too good that even with Jake Fromm at quarterback, we're going to be somewhere in the top 10 range of picking, but not number 1 overall. I mean, when in doubt, something else would end up happening. But, man, he definitely has some really good juice at 5 tech. He is an outside edge rusher, technically a linebacker, but we're going to move him to an edge rusher, and he will be a pass rushing specialist type of thing. And he's a twitchy edge with nice length, and he also does a better job against the run that people probably give him credit for and you would expect out of a pass rush specialist. He's not a liability against the run. You don't throw him out there when it's 3rd and 1. You do not do that. But if it's 3rd and 6 and there's a chance that they could run the ball, he's not a liability out there. You don't have to immediately grab him off the field just in case type of thing. And I agree with Ryan Fowler. I think he probably will outplay his draft stock, especially because 6-year college guy coming in with a mature body already. He has some explosion to him. He has some more athletic than he probably gets credit for. So I like him, man. I'm really excited about the pick. I don't absolutely love the pick, but I am excited because there's a lot of potential and ceiling to him. Now, he didn't test enough to get an official RAS score. All we have is his height, his weight, and then his vertical was bad and his broad jump was all right. But on tape, he looks more athletic than that. So, I mean, I'm not going to read into that too much, but his RAS score is not good at all. So don't even bother to look it up because you're not going to be happy. And I don't think it is a positive or an accurate reflection of what he looks like on tape. Even especially at the Shrine Bowl, he balled out at the Shrine Bowl. And honestly, with the performance that he put on at the Shrine Bowl, that's probably why we drafted him. We probably would have just waited until he was like an undrafted free agent if it wasn't for what he did at the Shrine Bowl. He went out there and put on a nice performance, did a nice little spin move and things like that to players. And hey, man, that's somebody that shouts out to him for going to the East-West Shrine Bowl and earning that spot on this team. I mean, Armani Rogers, if he didn't go to the East-West Shrine Bowl after making the transition from quarterback his entire life to tight end just before the East-West Shrine Bowl, I mean, it was reported those were the first times he ran routes at the East-West Shrine Bowl. If it wasn't for that, we probably don't even bring him in as an undrafted free agent, and maybe nobody even takes a look at him. So the East-West Shrine Bowl, even though it's not as popular and as important as the Senior Bowl, but it's still important, and guys like Andre Jones are a good example of that because he put on the show, and now look at him, drafted in the 7th. We didn't even want to wait until we could potentially get him as an undrafted free agent. We were like, we need to bring him in now. And Eric Galco, who analyzed his tape at the Shrine Bowl, he said that Andre Jones is a long leverage edge player who's worked at defensive end and linebacker in his college career. So you can kind of see him as a Sam if you want to. Remember, I kept beating on the table to move Shaka Toney to Sam linebacker because he has the athleticism and twitchiness to where he can cover if you want him to as well. Andre Jones comes with a little bit of that as well. Jones is patient, controlled, yet still long, athletic edge defender with clear rotational value early in his NFL career, and I completely agree. You can see him as a prospect, but because, again, with his 6 years in college and with as good of a frame that he already has, and I think he's more explosive than his RES score says, I think he'll be able to contribute immediately as a situational pass rusher for us on 3rd and longs, 4th and longs, like immediately, like week 1 if we need him to. And then just to go to Pro Football Focus before we get up out of here, he has an overall grade of 77.2, and he improved every year. 70.6 in 2020, 74.5 in 2021, and a 77.2 in 2022. 2022 specifically, he played in 12 games. He had 582 defensive snaps, 299 pass rush snaps, and 237 run defense snaps. So just about even. He wasn't a situational pass rusher in college specifically, but I think he'll probably be that at the NFL level as a projection. He had 7 sacks in those 12 games, 5 quarterback hits, 20 quarterback hurries, and 2 batted down passes. So, hey, man, I mean, kind of doing something. 2022 alone, I mean, I'm not going to dive into 2021 and 2020, but 2022 alone, he had 79 snaps over the tackle. He had 471 snaps on the outside of the tackle. That's like a pure linebacker with like one hand in the ground or standing up type of thing. And then he was an off-ball linebacker, like literally like a regular linebacker with 32 snaps in the 2022 season, which is interesting. He had a 76.7 pass rush grade, which is the highest grade of any of his grades. He had a 72.2 run defense grade. And then technically true pass set pass rush grade was his highest specific grade with the 81.2. So if it's an obvious pass rushing snap situation where it's like clearly this is what we're doing, we're not even and trying to stop the run. Go get the quarterback. Don't worry about nothing else. That's when he was at his best with, again, an 81.2 grade. He also had a pass rush win rate of 15.7, which is pretty good. He had a run stop rate of 6.9, which is decent, but not as good as his pass rush one. And then out of all of his individual grades for all of his 2022 games that he played, his highest one with the 85.8 was against Georgia Southern. And me as a Atlanta guy, Georgia guy in general, I take offense to that, Andre Jones. I don't know why you waited until you played against Georgia Southern to take all your anger out on them. But if you continue to play like how you played against Georgia Southern against everybody else at the NFL level, is cool with it. And then honestly, I mean, even one of his highest graded grades was against Florida State, which is arguably the best competition that he ever went against in college. So that's really interesting that he had a 72.7 grade in that game, because that, I mean, if we're looking at level of competition, he didn't play a lot of great competition throughout his entire years in college, his entire time in college, again, at Louisiana Raging Cajuns. I mean, they didn't play many great teams, but when they played Florida State, that's when he stepped up big time. And Florida State may not be what they were like 10, 15 years ago, but still, that's some pretty good competition right there. And he stepped up big time. I mean, Florida State just put an ex-Georgia transfer defensive end in the draft in the first round last year. I can't remember his name right now, but elite potential. So they have guys. Just because they're not who they used to be back in the day, they still have some really good guys out there. They may not be the Jalen Ramsey Florida State that we remember, but it's still Florida State. So shouts out to Andre Jones for going out there and against the strongest competition he's played probably in his career, stepping up and having a pretty good game. Not his best game. Again, his game against Georgia Southern, if you want to watch one game, I guess that would be it, because an 85.8 grade is arguably one of the best defensive grades any defensive player probably got in this draft in their entire careers. Like, he must have had an all-star performance. I can't wait to go check out that game. I've already watched some tapes, some highlights and things like that, but I want to specifically watch that game now, because he must have looked like a future Hall of Famer in that game with 85.8 grade. That's insane. But a 72.7 against Florida State is still pretty good in my opinion. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Of course, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I really appreciate y'all. Please let me know how you feel about this Andre Jones draft pick. Last draft pick in the round. I mean, how do you feel about this draft in general now that this is the final draft pick? I mean, no tight ends, no quarterbacks. How do you feel about that? Of course, no receivers. I didn't really expect one unless we brought in my boy Jake Bobo from UCLA that's like 6'4", 6'5". If we bring in a wide receiver, it may be a punt returner, but it's more than likely going to be a tall guy, so we'll see. But let me know how you feel about this whole situation. And of course, I'm going to do an entire draft video breakdown. It's probably going to be like 30 to 45 minutes, maybe even an hour, just a complete review, grade, and everything for the draft. So stay tuned for that, and I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.